The Portland Trailblazers have been one of the most talked about teams this offseason for a variety of reasons. One, because of all the Damian Lillard trade request thing, then them actually trading Dame, and then them continuing to make trades even after the Damian Lillard move altogether. And they've just been making a lot of moves, but despite them making all these moves, not a lot of people are talking about the moves from their perspective. They're more talking about how they're going to make Boston really good from the Drew Holiday trade, or how they're going to make the Milwaukee Bucks a finals favorite, things like that. And yes, those are fun things to talk about, but I don't think the Portland Trailblazers are getting the respect they deserve for how good some of the moves they made and how good they set themselves up for not only their future, but for their current season coming up. And I just think overall they deserve a lot more to talk about, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video today. And really the first thing I want to do to highlight how good these moves and series of moves the Portland Trailblazers have made this season are, is let's just start what they turned Damian Lillard into and what they traded him for. So first, they obviously started with Damian Lillard, and they traded him to the Milwaukee Bucks, where they were able to get DeAndre Ayton, Tamani Kamara, I know I butchered his name, 2029 first from the Milwaukee Bucks, and the rights to the swap rights, at least to the 28 and 30 first round picks for the Milwaukee Bucks as well. And then also they obviously got Drew Holiday as well. Now, even with that just alone, that is a very, very good haul, as they were able to get DeAndre Ayton, who is a young, very good center. Drew Holiday is one of the better perimeter defender and just one of the better guards in the entire NBA, and you basically got the rights to 3 first-round future picks as well. And for a team that's probably going to need to build through the draft a lot, those are going to be some very, very valuable picks. And on top of that, you don't know how good or bad they're going to be because they're so far into the future, and there's no telling in the NBA what team is going to be good in the 2028, 29, and 30 seasons. It's just impossible because you can't predict that type of thing. So those picks could be extremely valuable down the line. But they did not just stop there, as they went on and traded Drew Holiday as well just a few days later to the Boston Celtics. And they were able to turn Drew Holiday into Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, a 2024 first round pick from the Warriors, and a 2029 first round pick from the Boston Celtics. So in reality, altogether, what they were able to get out of just Damian Lillard, one player, they were able to get the rights to 5 future first round picks and 4 NBA players. And now let's break down every piece of this trade package and how it is going to affect them. DeAndre Ayton is probably the most well-known player they actually are going to keep on the roster, and DeAndre Ayton is a very, very solid center. A lot of people give him a hard time because he kind of disappeared in the playoffs, but when you're playing with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Chris Paul, you are the 4th option. You're going to be scoring the least in the playoffs, so I think that had a lot to do with it. And in the regular season, he was always a very productive player. So I think DeAndre Ayton is still a top 15 center at only 24, 25 years old, something like that. So I think his potential is still through the roof, and he's going to be a great starting center for them, especially after trading away Jusuf Nurkic earlier in this offseason as well. And then also they got Tamani Kamara, and I know I butchered his name, but even he had a very, very good summer league for the Phoenix Suns, so his potential could be through the roof. I'll admit, I didn't know who he was going into the draft. He was one of the last picks of the entire draft, and I knew most of them, but I didn't know him, and he looked very good in the summer league, so maybe he even has a very high potential as well. And then they're also keeping guys like Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon is a very good starting level point guard on pretty much any other roster that's not Portland, and with him being their bench player, we already saw him be a very solid bench player for the Boston Celtics last year, and I think he has that same potential this year, and he should be one of the best 6 men once again for the Portland Trailblazers for back-to-back years. And then also Robert Williams is also a young, very athletic power forward / center, very strong, great rebounder, great dunker, and all around just a very solid role player. And with him coming off your bench, that strengthens your depth a ton as well, and he could even start potentially as well, and I wouldn't be mad either way. And Robert Williams is just a very, very solid player that makes any team he is on that much better. And then obviously the 5 first-round picks they got the rights to. Now, yes, they're only swap rights for 2 of them, but still they have the rights to 5 future first-round picks, and that should help going forward, because no telling, like I said, how long in the future, how good or bad those picks are going to be. They could be extremely, extremely valuable picks that could be huge cornerstone pieces in the future of this team to make them a finals contender maybe sometime down the road. At least that's the vision for the Portland Trailblazers front office. And I think to get one player, 5 first-round picks and 4 very valuable players to this team right now that still have young and developing futures ahead of them, I think is very, very impressive for the Portland Trailblazers front office. And now that we got the whole moves out of the way, we dissected all that, we broke down how I think they're going to impact the roster, let's look at the roster itself, what the Portland Trailblazers will be going into next season with the roster looking like. Their starting lineup will most likely be Scoot Henderson, Anfernee Simons, Shadion Sharpe, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton, and that is a very, very solid starting five. Now, it's not like an elite one, it's not one of the best in the league, but a lot of teams would love to have a starting lineup like that. Scoot Henderson is a 19-year-old rookie who has the highest potential almost in the NBA. His athleticism is freakish. He's already a great scorer. He can slash. He's a great passer. He has high defensive potential. He's just all around a very, very good player and was one of the most highly touted prospects in a very long time. If it wasn't for Victor Wembanyama in almost any other class, he would have been the first overall pick. And Scoot Henderson just has a tremendous future ahead of him. Anfernee Simons is one of the more underrated shooting guards in the entire NBA. He is a very good scorer, very good shooter, and he's going to be a great backcourt partner with Scoot Henderson. Shadion Sharpe showed tons of potential in his rookie year. His athleticism is also freaky. He's a great scorer. He has defensive potential, and he just has a super high ceiling as well. Jeremy Grant is a guy who has played at an all-star level for a long time now. Now, although he might not make the all-star team or get the credit he deserves because he's been on Portland the past few years, he has still been a very high-level player, and Jeremy Grant's going to continue that. He's a veteran of this roster for sure. He's probably going to be the veteran leader for a little bit, and I just think for sure Jeremy Grant is going to make this team better than they would be without him. He's a great offensive threat. Even he has good athleticism, and he's also a solid defender, and I think that's going to be overall a great thing. And with all this offensive talent, someone like DeAndre Ayton, who will probably be their starting level center this year, I don't think DeAndre Ayton is going to have to worry about scoring because Scoot, Simons, and Sharpe, and even Jeremy Grant have the offense covered when it comes to the starters. All Ayton has to worry about is scoring when he sometimes is called upon, but being a great defender, great rebounder, and just doing all the dirty things. And I think that's going to make the game a lot more simple for Ayton, and there's going to be a lot less pressure on him. And I think overall he's going to have a much better time in Portland than he did with the Phoenix Suns from a pressure standpoint and just overall being able to play the game he wants to play. And I think DeAndre Ayton is going to excel here and be a great player for the role that he has right now. And then even their bench is nothing to scoff at all. Their bench is extremely solid, as coming off of it you have Malcolm Brogdon, who, like I said earlier, could be one of the best six men in the entire NBA, and is probably a starting player on almost any other roster that's not like a top 5 roster in the NBA. Then you have Matisse Thybulle, who's a great elite perimeter defender. Now, yes, his offense leaves a lot to be desired, but he is an elite defender on that side of the ball, and he's a player that any coach loves to have due to how much effort and how hard he plays on the defensive side of the ball. Then Robert Williams, like I said, just an athletic freak. He can do anything, rebound, block shots. He's just all around a very good player, kind of do it all when it comes to the defense and rebounding side of the ball. And then you have rookie Chris Murray, who I even think I'm a little higher on than a lot of people. Now, although I don't think he's going to be what his brother is, I think he's going to be a very solid scorer off their bench and just be a great backup for Shadion Sharpe in general. And I think Chris Murray is going to have a bigger impact on this roster than a lot of people are giving him credit for. And I think they had one of the better draft class in the NBA. Put on top of that, this offseason that they had, I think they have a very solid roster going into next year and a very underrated roster as well, and could legitimately be a playoff level team if all things go well. And inside of this roster, they were able to form one of the best young cores in the NBA. Now, yes, young core is probably one of the most overused terms in all of basketball, but in my opinion, for Portland, it just makes sense. As, I mean, look at the young core they have. They have Scoot Henderson, 19 years old, Anfernee Simons, 24 years old, DeAndre Ayton, 25 years old, Shadion Sharpe, 20 years old, Robert Williams, 25, Chris Murray, 23, and then even Kamara would be 23. And I just think overall that's one of the better young cores in the entire NBA, because I think Chris Murray is going to be a starting level player for a long time. Robert Williams already is. Scoot Henderson could be a superstar. Anfernee Simons is a beast on the offensive side of the ball. And DeAndre Ayton has probably, I think he's been an all-star, but if not, he is an all-star level center at times, and he has that potential to consistently play at that. And then Shadion Sharpe also has star potential, and there's not a lot of young cores that have that many star potential players legitimately on their roster like the Portland Trailblazers do. And then on top of that, they didn't even sacrifice the veteran presence, as like I said, they still have guys like Brogdon, who's played at a very high level on very good teams. They have guys like Thybulle, who's played on very good Philadelphia 76ers teams in the past. And overall, they have a lot of veterans that can lead this team, like Jeremy Grant as well. And then they also have a lot of young guys that can energize and really keep the ceiling of this team very, very high. And I think with that said, the Portland Trailblazers had one of the more underrated off seasons, made some great moves, and I think they're going to be one of the more kind of under the radar rosters in the beginning of the season, and that could legitimately make a playoff push at any point this entire season. And like I said, all of this came from just one player in Damian Lillard, and I think that is very impressive. Not a lot of front offices can make one player into basically basically a very good, well-rounded playoff roster, and not a lot of teams in front offices can lose one of the best players in the NBA and remain a very competent, all-around, well-rounded roster with high ceiling, high potential, and even potential to have success in the next season as well. I just think overall they've handled this situation extremely well, and I think they just deserved a lot more credit than they've been getting from the national media, and that is why I made this video. And I hope you did like the point, hit the like button and subscribe button. It means the absolute world to me, and I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah, blah.